이게 just yeah. Okay, this is maybe was on. Input.
Oh, fine.
Okay, it's on.
This water.
Okay.
Okay, George, you want to come up to the flag?
Okay.
Okay, it's 6:36. Okay, welcome to the Central Queens Republican Club. We're starting our meeting. George Marsh is going to lead us off with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Okay.
Okay. You want to look this way?
Okay. Yeah. All right. I don't need that. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay. Let's see. Next is the reading of our club's mission statement. Jim Strawhorn is not in. Right, that's not feeling well, so let me just read the mission statement. Okay. The mission statement. Okay. The mission of this club shall be to advance the principles and purposes of the Republican Party, to elect Republican candidates to public office, to strengthen the civic welfare of the community, and to engage in a vigorous exchange of ideas supporting Republican values. Next, okay, it's going to be the roll call. We have officers today. Some of them are going to be coming a little bit later. Okay, let me start with the roll call. The President, Daniel Mayo, it's me. David Abraham, Kathy Lally, Celia Levy, David Kemp, Isaiah Vega, it's going to be coming a little later. Carol Crum, Pogozelski,
Aye.
Jimmy Swatsman, a little later. Martha Rowan, Stephen Weiner, Jim Strawhorn, he's sick again. Phil Grillo, this is coming later. Stan Norwalk, Ruben Diablo Cruz, Joel Solomon, Kathy Donnelly, Craig Tyson, Dick Starsky, Phil McManus, Juan Pagan, Zilly Chow, Gerald Lally, and Emily Zhang. Next is the reading of the club minutes. Okay, I guess let me go and do that. We'll have a short one this time. Minutes of the regular meeting of the Central Queens Republican Club held on June 19, 2025 at Grace Lutheran Church, 103 15 Union Turnpike, Forest Hills, Queens 11375. Larry Block and Olivia of American Conservative Artists performed before the meeting was called to order at 7:35. Dan Goodrider led the Pledge of Allegiance. Jim Strawhorn read the club's mission statement and did the roll call. George Stein read the minutes of the April 17, 2025 and May 15, 2025 meetings. Both were adopted unanimously. Board members in attendance were Jim Strawhorn, Danny Mayo, Ruben Cruz, and Phil McManus. Absent were Stan Norwalk, Jim Spotsman, David Abraham, Zil Levy, Phil Grillo, David Kemp, Martha Rowan, Craig Tyson, Isaiah Vega, Stephen Weiner, Catherine Donnelly, Dick Starsky, Tom Pagan, Joel Solomon, Pogozelski, Joe Lally, Kathy Lally, Carol Quallen, Zilly Chow, and Amy Zhang. 19 members and 6 non-members were in attendance. Bank balance was $4,590.69, with 49 paid members. Announcements. Pogozelski remarried and is vacationing in Thailand. Okay.
Thank you.
He's with us here tonight.
Yeah.
Stan Norwalk, through his Q-Guard Civic Association, having a lot of tickets to the Mets versus the San Francisco Giants game on August 2nd, and offered tickets to interested club members. And Goodrider, first-time attendee, said vote Republican. County Committee primary candidates. James Coppola of the 62nd ED 2480 Windsor Park said he was challenged by county committee candidates living in Jamaica State. Elena Chen, also the same ED 62 8024, quoted a statement from a 9-year-old student she counseled before she retired in 2020. And the student said, "Ms. Chen, if we are fighting among ourselves, how can anyone win?" This is her third race for county committee. After her first race, Elena reached out to her opponent and was surprised to learn that her opponent did not petition and did not know how her name got on the ballot. This year, Elena was challenged again. Names of her opponents were not filled in until after petitions were signed, and her specification challenge was rejected for failing to include an abbreviation key. We have a Republican Party in Queens that wants to dictate, not communicate. We had so many races that we could have won. Where is the leadership? Unity is not doing what I said. George Stein of 53 AD, 26 AD, ran for a second consecutive county committee term and was unchallenged. Suzanne Kronowitz in 21 AD and 26 AD had her name filled in the county committee box petition before she collected signatures, but her name did not appear on the county committee ledger. Karen Carr of AD 11, AD 23, new to the county committee, became a Republican when she earned more than $50,000 a year since Ronald Reagan. Phil McManus of AD 10, AD 23, Rockaway Park, had 5,000 registered Republicans in his ED among 6 Mitchell, Dayton, and Surfside counties. County committee is a form of Republican recruitment, he said. Phil focused on the positive, God, family, country, not the negatives which would break your heart, he said. Andrew Okanoff of ED 57, 54 AD in Brooklyn talked about Jack Citarelli running in the New Jersey governor's race against Nickie and his North Brooklyn Republican Club. Later in the evening, Robert Spivak said he was the affidavit inspector at the Allen Marshall early voting site. Over 5 days from Saturday to Wednesday, there were 1,704 Democrats voted and 51 Republicans. The turnout was higher than usual for Democrats. Winners of the 50-50 raffle were George Stein, Phil McManus, and Richard MacArthur. The meeting was adjourned early at 9:14. Are there any questions, amendments to the minutes of the last month meeting? Okay, see none, do I have a motion to adopt the minutes? Anton, do I have a second? Second, Richard. All in favor says aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, the minutes have been adopted. Thank you very much. Now, very quickly, on those people who spoke in the last month meeting on the county committee primary, all of them have won. Okay, so it's very nice to know at least those people who spoke at the last month, they won their respective county committee race. Okay, moving on to the next item, a couple of announcements. Okay, then we're going to get to our main speaker. Okay, some announcements. There is going to be on November 4th at least five ballot proposals. Okay, they're going to be voted on I believe the 21st of July. We'll give you more detail in the next club meetings, but basically, as Councilman Bartholomew said, the city is on steroids. They are fast-tracking a lot of these proposals. Mr. Ryder, how you doing? You're welcome. And also, there's two other proposals in there. Is they want to move the elections of the mayors and city councils from a odd number year, like this year, to an even number year. Now, what does that mean? Does it mean the city council people who have 4-year term, because they have not fulfilled the 8-year term, will be able to run again for another 4 years? We don't know yet. That's part to be discussed. Right? That's some of the proposal that the details has yet been published. Generally, they give an idea what's happening, like changing the map, they centralize the mapping system. They're going to create a new ULURP system for land use. They call it ELURP, which is an expedited land use for certain smaller lot size. All those details should be out in the next meeting once they finalize it. Any questions on the proposals the Charter Commission is going to put on next month? Okay. Seeing none, let's move on to the next announcement. Again, if available on August 2nd, there will be free tickets to watch the Mets versus the San Francisco Giants game. That's a Saturday afternoon game. You just let me know how many tickets you want. Stan says you have as many as you like. Anton.
need two more. You gave me two. I got two more.
You got it. Okay. I'm going to give you two more during the meeting. Okay. All right. Let's see. We have a couple of people that will come in later to make some announcements. Let me go ahead and move on since they're not here yet. Let me get to one of the main speakers of the evening, okay, Mr. Loren Spivak. Now, Mr. Spivak is a very interesting man there. He's spoken at, I don't know, over 100 Republican clubs so far, if not more. He is basically known as the Dr. Seuss of politics. He has his books over there that he wrote, okay? They're available for $25 a copy. The club will be buying some copies to be given out later today, okay? So you're welcome to take them also with you. And I guess, without further ado, Loren, how would you like? I guess you probably want to do a sitting down over here. That might be easier for you.
I'll leave.
Okay, you'll leave. Okay. So let's welcome Loren Spivak.
Nice of you guys to have me. I speak to Republican groups all over the United States on a wide variety of topics, more or less related to free market economics. And I was going to talk to you guys tonight about something that I've been giving a lot of thought to, as we are now 25% done with the 21st century. It's like, you know, I thought we just got here, and it's already a quarter over. And if you look at the history of the Democratic Party in the 21st century, you find some interesting stuff. The high point this century for the Democrats was the original election of Barack Obama. That was like their peak. And then shortly thereafter, they came up with the idea of Obamacare, and it all came plummeting downward. Obamacare has never been popular. They proceeded to lose elections all over the country and lost both houses of Congress. And haven't, you know, even on the presidential level, the two times they've won since then have been very, very narrow. And then since then, they've come up with some other bad ideas, like open borders. You know, the idea that, you know, everyone in the world should be able to just march in and do whatever they want. DEI, the idea that you should hire people not based on what they're competent at, but based on what boxes they check. With the transgender movement, the idea that we should replace energy that works with energy that doesn't work in order to stop producing carbon dioxide. How many of these are good ideas, do you think? And I don't mean like whether you or I agree with them, but just like, which of these ideas are going to win them an election? Which of these are ideas that voters are going to say, wow, this is such a great idea, you know, I'm sure we're going to vote for the Democrats. And the answer is none of them. There's not one idea the Democratic Party has come up with in 25 years that gets 25% of the vote, let alone 51% of the vote that you need to actually win an election. And I've been giving a lot of thought to why this is. And I have an answer, but I need to start with some broad points to lay the foundation for this. And it starts like this. The human race, broadly understood, and I mean our entire species, can be understood as a gigantic information accumulating machine. We humans are in the know-how business. We figure stuff out, and then we pass it on to our kids, and our kids figure it out even better than we did. You know, how do you do agriculture? How do you raise a building? How do you domesticate animals? How do you make a jet airplane? Okay, this has been going on for as long as the human race has walked the earth. All of this information that we've accumulated comes from the past. It's an obvious note, but an important one. We don't get our information from the future for the simple reason that no one's ever been to the future. No one has ever met anyone who's been to the future. Nobody gets emails from the future. our information that we've been accumulating for all of these years comes from the past. How did we get it in the past? Mostly through trial and error. We humans try everything, and then you see what works and you see what doesn't work. For example, there's got to be 1 million different species of plant life in the world. Some of them are good, nutritious food. Others are deadly poison. How do you think we figured out which was which? We tried them all. And somebody said, you know, the last 10 people to eat that particular plant dropped dead 3 minutes later. I think we should take it off the menu. That's how we figure stuff out. Now, as you get a little bit more sophisticated, you start talking about the scientific method. But the scientific method is really just sophisticated trial and error. The way the scientific method works is you have to have a theory. And your theory has to predict something, and something measurable. Your theory has to say, this is what's going to happen. And then, if things keep happening the way your theory predicts, we assume that your theory is correct. If things happen that are contrary to your theory, we assume that your theory is not correct. And I'll make one final point about this. We can put these ideas, this accumulated knowledge, into 2 broad categories. The one we think about more is our knowledge of how the universe works. You know, Newton's laws of motion, aerodynamics, and things like that. You know, if you want to make an airplane, you know, these are the rules that we have to follow. The second category, which we talk about less, but is arguably even more important, is the rules of how the human race works. We engineer ourselves all the time. I'll give you an example. Every society in the history of the world has had to deal with crime. Crime is one of those things that nobody wants, but it's going to happen, and you need to have a societal solution for it. And just like everything else, we've tried everything. We tried that if you think somebody is guilty of a crime, you throw him in a lake, and if he sinks, he's innocent, and if he floats, he's guilty, so you fish him out and burn him at the stake. In the Middle Ages, they had a thing where if they thought you committed a crime, you had to put your arm into a vat of boiling water for a certain period of time. And then they decided whether you were innocent or guilty based on how long it took your burns to heal. And then slowly, over the course of 1,000 years, we started trying out some new ideas. Like maybe you ought to have an impartial jury. Maybe you ought to be able to call witnesses in your own defense. Maybe you ought to be able to cross-examine the witnesses brought in. Maybe you should have a lawyer. Okay? And this process never finishes. We're tweaking this all the time. This is what the Supreme Court does for a living. They tweak this stuff. And it doesn't mean the Supreme Court's always right. Nobody's always right. It's trial and error. But slowly, surely, we figure out better ways to run our society and better ways to deal with the laws of nature. The reason I'm taking the time to explain this all to you is that this is how the human race works. It is not how the left works. The left doesn't believe in any of this stuff. I hate to be the one to break it to you, but the party of science does not believe in the scientific method. What they believe in is visions. They have visions from the future. And I've already explained to you that nobody knows anything about the future, but as far as I can figure out, the visions tell the Democrats that they're from the future, and they believe them. Okay? I'll give you an example. When I was growing up in the 1970s, one of the big controversial issues in America, people were talking about it all over the 1970s, was the idea of sex education in school. Because for the entire history of the human race, everyone just assumed that parents would teach their kids about stuff like this at an appropriate age. But in the 1970s, the left came along and said, you know, that's not good enough. The public schools need to do this. Does anyone remember the reason they gave why the public schools needed to get into the sex education business? Anyone remember this? Everyone, you can't all be that young that you don't remember the 1970s. Okay? Teen pregnancy. They said teen pregnancy rates are too high, so we need to teach the kids where babies come from so that we can get control of the teen pregnancy rates. And they won the argument. Every public school in America to this day has been teaching sex education. Here's the question though. What happened to the teen pregnancy rates? They went through the roof. We ended up, once that sex education was in there, we ended up with the highest teen pregnancy rates in the history of the world, at least the recorded history of the world. So, did they apologize? Did they take it back? Did they say, you know, this is not working, let's do something else because this is the experiment's a failure? No, because the key thing you need to understand about left-wing visions is that they are not falsifiable. No matter what happens, they're never wrong. Okay? Because they're visions. They're not subject to the scientific method. So if your kids are in public school today, they've updated this, and now they're learning about gay sex, which is really interesting because I don't claim to be like the biggest sex expert in the world or anything. But I know where babies don't come from. And they don't come from gay sex. So it turns out that this had nothing to do with teen pregnancy rates. They just wanted to share pornography with your children. And of course, there's more examples than this. Another prime example is global warming, which has a fascinating history, because again, when I was growing up in the 1970s, we were heading to another ice age. Do you remember? And then in the 1980s, it became global warming. And then in the 1990s, they got really smart and changed it to global climate change. You see, this is very important because climate change is unfalsifiable. It doesn't matter what happens. You can just say it was climate change. It's warm, it's cold, it's rainy, it's sunny. It doesn't matter. So climate change is a non-scientific theory. If you have people in your life who believe in the climate change story, I will tell you how to win every single argument with them. All you have to do is say to them, what could happen in like out there in the world, what could occur that would prove your theory wrong? And I guarantee they will not answer that question, because anything they would say might happen, and then they'd be wrong. And so they can't do that, they can't risk that. They will tell you it's just right. It's settled, okay? Well, science is never settled. It changes all the time. And the scientific method tells us that a theory that can't be proven wrong can't be proven right because it's not scientific. I could come up with my own theory of the climate. You want to hear my theory? I think weather is caused by leprechauns. It was kind of a hot day today. That was the leprechauns, you see? They made it hot today. Tomorrow is supposed to be cooler. That's the leprechauns too. They're making it warm today and cooler tomorrow. This is my theory. And it is a theory, but it's not a scientific theory because it's not falsifiable. Whatever happens on Saturday, I'm just going to say leprechauns, and you haven't learned anything at all. This is what global warming theory actually is. It's a vision. And interestingly enough, Kamala Harris comes into this talk. And I would never accuse Kamala Harris of having an idea or anything, but she did like to repeat things she heard from other people. And one of her favorite things to repeat, you can see videos on YouTube where she's saying the same sentence over and over and over again, each time wearing a different outfit. And you've probably seen this. You know what the sentence is? Okay? We have to imagine what can be unburdened, and if you want to do Kamala Harris right, you have to throw your right hand into the air at this point, unburdened by what has been. What does that sentence mean? And I'm not suggesting that Kamala Harris knows what it means. I'm sure she doesn't. But the people who taught it to her know what it means. And it means exactly what I've been talking about. What we have to imagine what can be. What is that? That's the vision from the future. We're imagining it. It's a vision. Unburdened by what are we being unburdened by? We're being unburdened by all the knowledge and wisdom that the human race has accumulated over thousands and thousands of years of human civilization. That's what we're being unburdened by. The actual knowledge is out, and my vision is in. That is the left-wing project, and I wrote this talk long before I ever heard the name of Mamdani. I forgot exactly how to pronounce it. That guy. But he's the perfect model of this. What's he running on? Has he ever done anything? Has he ever? Grocery stores go because they will be forever here with us forever because it's a left-wing vision. So ultimately what this is, what leftism is a religion without God. They have hymns and holidays, they have prophecies and preachers, there's just no God. So everything that comes with a religion except God, and that's what leftism is. So I wanted to move on and talk about some specific examples of how this affects the world that we're in. The left-wing visions that have replaced actual knowledge about the world. And the title of this talk is Why the Left is Wrong About Everything. And I obviously don't have enough time to hit on everything, but I want to do some broad examples so you see how prevalent this actually is. The example I was going to move to is war. War, like crime, is one of those things that will always be with us. There are times in the world where two civilizations say the world is not big enough for both of us. Somebody's got to go. And it's never going to go away. How do I know that? Because I look at the history of the world, and it shows me that war is something that's very undesirable, but it's not going to go away because it's going to be part of human existence. As far as war goes, the United States is theoretically in a very good position. You know, the largest air force in the world is the United States Air Force. Does anyone know what the second largest air force in the world is? The United States Navy. There are the biggest tool for projecting military power around the world is the modern nuclear-powered aircraft carrier. And it's a whole group. They don't travel by themselves. There's a whole bunch of ships that go with them, okay? There are 12 of these things in the entire world. 11 of the 12 are ours. The 12th, in case you're wondering, is France, a country that's not super likely to attack us anytime soon, I don't think. We are, on paper, in a very good situation as far as any future war goes. Probably the entire world, like all 199 other countries, could get together and attack us all together, and we should be able to beat them all. Theoretically. And yet there's a paradox here, because we haven't actually won a war since 1945. It's been 80 years since we've actually won a war. Instead of winning wars, we tend to slink away from them. We slunk away from Korea, and we slunk away from Vietnam. We slunk away from Iraq, and we slunk away from Afghanistan. We don't win, we slink. And this is a huge change that I don't think we talk about enough. I don't think it's because our equipment isn't good enough or our fighting men aren't good enough. I think this relates to the mentality of the leadership of our military, which has completely forgotten the concept of winning a war. And by the way, there's some real advantages to winning. In 1945, when we completely defeated the Germans and the Japanese, up until that point, the Germans and the Japanese were the most dangerous countries in the world to their neighbors. They were both attacking their neighbors right and left, causing all kinds of problems. Since 1945, when we beat them, they've been the most peaceful countries in the world. They haven't bothered anybody in 80 years. And not only that, they've been our best friends in the world. We couldn't have better friends than the Germans and the Japanese, all because we completely defeated them back in 1945. But we don't do that anymore. And the countries that the wars that I mentioned, Vietnam and Korea and Iraq and Afghanistan, are not only are still there, they're still run by the people we were fighting, and in many cases doing the same stuff that caused us to fight them in the first place. So, during the Biden administration, the Biden years, the Biden administration got a phone call from our close allies, the Israelis. And they said, we have been invaded by thousands and thousands of armed men from a neighboring state. They're killing people all over the place. They're raping every woman they get their hands on. They are committing every atrocity you've ever heard of, and have invented some new ones that you haven't heard of. What should we do? And the Biden administration said, well, what you guys need is a ceasefire. And the Israelis said, well, don't you think we should win? And the Biden administration said, win? That's just 1945 thinking. We don't win wars anymore. We have ceasefires. What we should have done when the Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor was demanded a ceasefire. And this left-wing vision of war, which is based on absolutely nothing, okay? If you walk away with anything today, left-wing visions have no actual evidentiary basis at all. They're just visions, that's it. And there's a few more elements to this one. One is the concept of proportionality. That you can only do to them what they did to you, no more than that. So when the Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor, we should have just found a Japanese harbor and attacked it, and now we're even, we can't do anything else, because that would be disproportionate. As opposed to winning through to absolute victory, which is what we did instead. The second rule is that you can't have collective punishment. So we can only shoot Japanese soldiers who were actually part of attacking Pearl Harbor. So during World War II, if we ran into a Japanese soldier, we should have said, well, were you at Pearl Harbor? And if he wasn't, then we can't shoot him because, you know, he's not part of the attack. And then the third rule is you have to feed your enemy's population while you're fighting them. I'll tell you, during World War II, if you had been here and if you had sent food to Germany and Japan, you would have been put on trial for treason. But in the left-wing vision of war, you have to send food to your enemy while you're fighting them. This is insane. And it's a recipe not to have less war, it's a recipe to have more war. And I gotta tell you, there will come a time where and I hope it's a long time because wars are not nice, but there will come a time when we're in a real war and it's not one of these optional wars where we can get tired of it and go home and forget the whole thing. And we better have recaptured the concept of winning a war. So I had a crazy idea over the course of these last couple of years, which is that instead of our telling the Israelis how to fight their war, they should tell us how to fight our wars because they actually win. They are the last outpost of Western civilization that understands that wars are supposed to be won. Okay? And it's obvious why, because they can't afford to lose one, they're too small, but they're also leading the way in terms of Western civilization, and I hope we learn to follow their example. The second example I was going to give you of a left-wing vision that's been destroying us, and this goes to economics, which is of course my favorite topic, and that is where prices come from. Again, the totality of human history have told us that the price of anything is caused by two factors, and only two factors. And even if you've never had an economics class in your entire life, I bet you already know what those two factors are. And hint, one of them is not greed. Supply and demand. Supply and demand cause the price of everything, and nothing else does. Now, I'm going to tell you two more things, and I don't want you to think I'm contradicting myself, because these are two factors that affect supply and demand, right? They affect the price secondarily because they affect supply and demand, and only supply and demand affects price. And the first one is government regulation. Government regulation tends to make things more expensive because it reduces supply. If I'm a shoemaker, let's say, and I make shoes for a living, and the government comes along and says, okay, before you make every pair of shoes, you have to fill out 100 forms. Here's the 100 forms. Well, what's going to happen? I'm going to make fewer shoes. I'm spending half my day filling out the forms and not making shoes. There will be fewer shoes, the price of shoes go up. Government regulation always makes everything more expensive for that reason because it reduces supply. The second one I want to mention is printing money. When the government expands the money supply, that also increases prices, not independently but because it increases demand. If the government sends everybody a chunk of money, remember COVID? Don't go to work, don't produce anything, we'll just send you some free money we just printed yesterday. What's going to happen? I got, yesterday I had $14 in my bank account. Now I've got $1,014 in my bank account. What am I going to do? I'm going to go to the store. And you're going to go, and everyone's going to go to the store to spend this $1,000 we just got from the government. Well, the store doesn't have any more stuff than it had yesterday. The store's got the same amount of stuff, we just all have this extra money. It's obviously going to bid up the prices, okay? So, with this in mind, see, that's a fact of life that we've learned from human history. Let's talk about Obamacare. Do you remember when Obama first introduced Obamacare? Do you remember what it was supposed to do for us? What was the selling point of Obamacare to the average American? Do you remember? Yeah. What was it was going to bring the price down. Do you remember how much? Because he was very specific about this. $2,500 a year. It was going to save every single American $2,500 a year in medical costs to have Obamacare. So, how much did you actually save? Nothing, because it actually sent the price through the roof. Like the teen pregnancy rates in the 1970s, the price did not go down, it went through the roof. Why is that? Well, I want you to understand that there is no way on God's green earth that Obamacare could have done anything but raise prices, okay? Things don't happen the way you want them to happen. They happen according to the logic of what you're doing, right? If I say, I want to lose weight, how am I going to lose weight? I'm going to eat 14 double cheese pizzas every day while sitting on my couch watching television. Am I going to lose weight? But it was my intention to lose weight. It doesn't matter. What matters is what you do, okay? So Obamacare essentially did two things. Number one is it took a bunch of people who were previously uninsured and made them insured. So they were not buying health care, now they're buying health care. This is demand going up. What does that do to prices? It sends them up. You have more demand, the prices go up. Okay? The second thing it did is it was tons and tons and tons of new bureaucracy. So much so that before Obamacare, I used to have in my life a bunch of private standalone doctors. Like he was this little doctor who had a little office somewhere and a receptionist, and that was it, just two of them. Okay? Those don't exist anymore. because it's so expensive to be a doctor now, they have to get together in groups and form these cooperatives to handle all the government bureaucracy. So loads more bureaucracy pushes prices up, loads more patients pushes prices up, no more supply, okay, keeps prices up, okay? It had to raise prices. It could not possibly lower them. This was a completely nonsensical vision. By the way, if you actually wanted to reduce the cost of healthcare, which I have heard politicians talking about my entire life, how could you do it? You want to know how to actually reduce the cost of healthcare? It's simpler than you think. Make more doctors. If there were more doctors, the price of healthcare would go down. Like the sun rising in the east, I absolutely guarantee it. How many proposals to reduce the cost of healthcare talk about making more doctors? None of them. What, am I the only person in the world to figure this out? How could we make more doctors? Well, we could start out by changing our government's policy, which is currently to make fewer doctors. The United States Congress, and they've been doing this for practically your entire life, pays every medical school in America to graduate fewer doctors. Did you know that? Your money is given to medical schools on the condition that they not graduate as many doctors as they could, that they shrink the pool of doctors. Why does your congressman vote for this? Because the biggest lobby in Washington is the American Medical Association, and they don't care whether you're a Democrat or Republican, all they care about is that there's fewer doctors, so the doctors can charge more, okay? Now, I'm not suggesting you can take any clown off the street, throw him into medical school, and a couple of years later he's a brilliant surgeon. Probably your average person walking down the street does not have the capacity to be a doctor. It's a very tough profession. But if we stopped our policy of reducing the number of doctors and switched to a policy of increasing the number of doctors, there would be more doctors. And if there were more doctors, the price would go down all by itself. The next time a politician tells you he has a plan to make medical care affordable, you should be saying, how will it increase the number of doctors? And if it won't do that, it's complete nonsense. And this, of course, doesn't just apply to medicine. Supposing you wanted the price of housing to go down, how do you think we could do that? Build more houses. Oh my gosh. The reason that housing is so insanely expensive, particularly in cities like New York or Los Angeles or Miami, is that they have these restrictions that stop people from building more houses. I learned a fascinating thing from my favorite living economist, Thomas Sowell, wrote a book about the housing crisis a couple years ago, where he pointed out that we just take it for granted that if you have an identical house in Los Angeles and the exact same house in Nebraska, we assume the one in Nebraska is going to be way, way, way cheaper, and the one in Los Angeles will be way, way more expensive. And Thomas Sowell explained that before 1970, that wasn't the case. It was maybe a little bit more expensive in Los Angeles, but it wasn't 25 times more expensive, because this is all about land use restrictions. The cities did not used to stop people from building houses. Now they hate it. Well, if you're not going to build more houses, the price of housing is just going to go up and up and up, because that's how economics works. Supposing you wanted the price of gasoline to go down, how could you do that? Drill more oil. Okay? This is not complicated. What you need to understand is that the policy of the left and the Democrats is 100% at odds with the needs of average Americans, okay? They can't appeal to the needs of average Americans because they're too busy appealing to the needs of environmentalists who don't want you to build anything. You've got left-wing friends and relatives and neighbors and family members. Ask them. Say, should we build more housing? They'll say, oh no, that's terrible. It's a scar upon the earth. Well, how are we going to house the homeless if we don't build more housing? How are we going to get the price of housing down so that regular people can afford to buy a house if you don't build more houses? This is the most straightforward economic concept. It's amazing how few people get this. In 1900, 125 years ago, In 1900 was the very dawn of the US automotive industry. In the entire United States of America, we built in 1900 4,000 cars. And the rest of the world built none. We were the only country building cars, we built 4,000. Who do you think got those 4,000 cars? Who ended up with them? Rich people. Because it was a brand new, state-of-the-art technology. Who got the first cell phones? Who got the first microwave ovens? Rich people. How did we get it so that poor people would get them? And the answer is, we made more. Okay? You roll this out and you make more, and poor people get to get it too. This is how this works. The United States, 67% of people who live under the poverty line own their own automobile. We've got the richest poor people on earth in the United States. It's amazing. How do we do that? We build more cars. If we would build more houses and drill more oil and make more doctors and do all of these things, we can actually come up with an affordable economy. The left, however, is absolutely opposed to this. And the final example I was going to give you of a left-wing vision, although I'm telling you they're wrong about everything, and behind everything they're wrong about, there's a vision. But the last example I'm going to give you is what I call the greatest lie of all. And the greatest lie of all, I think my microphone's died. The greatest lie of all is equality. There is no such thing as equality. Humans are the least equal species under the sun. We are so, is this going to work better? Oh, it sounds better. We are so profoundly unequal, it's breathtaking. And we're unequal in a million different ways. Some people are smarter than other people. And by the way, I have met examples of both. Some people are harder working than other people. Some people are more organized than other people. Some people are more creative than other people. Some people have better people skills than other people. I could go on and on and on. We could, if I had a chalkboard here, we could come up with 1,000 different things, and people are unequal in every single one of them, and every single one of them relates to how we are living somehow. Okay? Does it all kind of even out at the end, that you're better at this and I'm better at that, and it'll all come out even? No, it doesn't. The fact is, it's all situational anyhow. Mark Zuckerberg is worth $100 billion because he invented Facebook. If Mark Zuckerberg had been born in the 14th century, do you think he'd have $100 billion? Pretty hard to figure out how. But he was in the right time, in the right place, with the right idea. Literally billions of people use Facebook. It was a big hit. He made tons and tons of money. He actually did that. Okay? That is the actual way of the world. The idea that again, there's another left-wing vision that's based on absolute nothing, is that if people don't come out with the exact same result, then something's got to be wrong with society, is complete nonsense. There's never been an equal society ever. Even societies whose entire goal is equality, like let's say the Soviet Union or North Korea, they're not equal. You think Stalin was equal to everybody else, okay? Stalin is living in a palace eating the finest food while everybody else is starving to death, okay? There has never been an equal society ever, because human beings are not equal. Okay? That doesn't mean we don't all have wonderful things to contribute, but the result is never going to be equal. That is not a mystery that needs to be solved. It's the nature of the human race. And I'll tell you, for my entire career of watching politics, most of it has been about the left trying to get their insane visions across. So I'll point out one final way that people are unequal, although there's 1,000 of them, and that is, if I picked a random person out of the phone book and gave him $10 million, what would he do with it? He'd spend it, that's right. He'd spend, I'd come by next week, he'd be driving a sports car. Well, I was gonna say he'd be living in a mansion, but this is New York City. He'll be living in a modest house. Okay? If I give Elon Musk $10 million, what's he gonna do with it?
Invest it.
He's gonna turn into $100 million. Guarantee it. Okay? If I give the government $10 million, what are they going to do with it? They're going to spend it on transgender sensitivity training for the Taliban, is what they're going to spend it on. So, in the course of my life, politics has been the Democrats trying to convince the people who would blow the money to vote for them so they can take the money away from the people who would invest the money and give it to pay for the transgender sensitivity training for the Taliban. And that's what our politics is about. And there's my thought for today. I'm going to take my last 2 minutes here and tell you really quickly what the book's saying, right? Years ago, my friends said you should write a book. And I did, and it was the wrong book. Everyone thought I was going to write a 500-page tome of economics. But I had an epiphany that people don't read 500-page tomes about economics. If you write something fun and funny and accessible, you're going to reach far more people. So my first book was called The New Democrat. It's a parody history of the Obama administration done as the Cat in the Hat. I guess everyone's read The Cat in the Hat. Okay? So Cat shows up uninvited at this middle-class American house. What's he do when he gets inside? He wrecks the place. It's kind of like Obama. What I was thinking. And then he's got these two friends, thing one and thing two. Do you remember? They became Pelosi and Reed. And I realized I was writing the first history of the Obama years, all done just like the Cat in the Hat. And I got my first book review. Salon.com said that this was the most twisted piece of conservative propaganda print matter out there. And I was touched. That's on the cover now. And I was moved to write my second book. Who's read The Lorax by Dr. Seuss? It was a movie a couple of years ago. Dr. Seuss was a huge leftist, lifelong member of the American Socialist Party. Of course he was, just like Bartholomew. And he fills his children's books with social lessons for your kids, and The Lorax was his environmentalist book. It's about an evil capitalist called the Onceler, who cuts down trees and makes consumer goods. And we are taught that is bad, bad, bad. He drives the trees to extinction. He wipes them out, they're extinct, there's no more trees, and his factory finally goes out of business because there's no more trees. And I read it to my kids, I said, does that make sense to you? Do you think that capitalists destroy species that their business depends on? Do you think that Colonel Sanders is going to drive the chicken to extinction? Can I see hands on this? Who's worried? One person is worried that Colonel Sanders is going to drive the chickens to extinction. I think it's exactly the opposite. I think Colonel Sanders cares more about the survival of the chicken species than anybody on the planet, including the chickens. He's got billions wrapped up in this. There are going to be more chickens as long as Colonel Sanders has anything to say about it. And I'll tell you something else. There are more chickens alive in the world today than ever before in history. Do you know why? It's because we like to eat them. That's why. The greatest thing that ever happens to a species is that human beings like to eat you. This is like winning the species lottery. Chickens, cows, wheat, corn, pick your species. So this was a book that very much needed to be parodied. Mine is called The Gorax because it stars Al Gore as the Lorax character. It's about how America used to be free and prosperous, and then the environmentalist wackos showed up and started driving everybody out of business. The Wizard of Iz is obviously a parody of The Wizard of Oz. My first thought was that Bill Clinton made a really great wizard, because as you recall, the original wizard is a fake. He's a charlatan. It's all smoke and mirrors. I thought Clinton fit perfectly. When they first meet him in my book, they say, "Are you the Wizard of Iz?" He says, it all depends on your definition of Iz. Hillary is the Wicked Witch. Do you remember the Cowardly Lion? I replaced him with a Cowardly Rhino. Ooh. who suspects the Democrats are wrong, but he's too scared to do anything about it. He's looking for the courage to do something useful when he shows up in Washington. And it's a good story. It starts when Dorothy's house lands on Obama, and she finds herself in the land of the free lunchkins who've been living off the government for so long they've forgotten how to take care of themselves. To think that I saw it on CNN Live is about the media and Trump. It's the Trump story with a focus on the pathological dishonesty of our media. Motley Click is an interesting story. I wanted to do something about the critical race theory, identity politics world that we live in. It's about this shit full of social justice warriors. And they hire for diversity, so they very carefully have selected a crew with one of everybody. There's a black guy, Jewish guy, Muslim, Asian, gay, Mexican woman, transgender, Indian, lesbian. And they're all out hunting for the great white racist. But they end up catching each other. They keep finding these flaws in each other's wokeness. It's a very ironic story about how the anti-racists are the most racist people you are ever going to meet. The Fisherman's Husband is a parody of the LGBTQIA plus minus divided by sign movement based on The Fisherman's Wife, which is a fairy tale about pushing things too far. It's my story about how the gay rights movement started here in New York City about 50 years ago with people who were gay who said we would like to not get beaten up because we're gay, which is awfully reasonable, seems to me. Anyhow, so then it moved to, we need civil unions so we can visit each other in the hospital, which never made any sense to me because you could visit anybody you want in the hospital. But, okay, so they got civil unions. And then they said, well, civil unions are no good anymore. We now need marriage equality because, two men, man and a woman, same thing. We need marriage equality. And then it moved to, you need to bake a cake for our wedding. You don't have a right not to bake our cake. We will make you bake that cake, and your kids need to be taught about this in kindergarten, and if your kid's kindergarten teacher decides he was born in the wrong body, he's off to the operating room, and if you have a problem with that, you're just a bad parent. This has gone from reasonable to insanity over the course of 50 years, which is what my book, The Fisherman's Husband, is about. And then my latest, hot off the presses, Camelot with a K, is a parody of the Biden administration done as the King Arthur legend with Biden as kind of a senile King Arthur. It's also my first musical. In this one, the various characters break into song throughout. So, for example, Nancy Pelosi sings a song I wrote called Speaker of the House, which is to the tune of Master of the House from Les Mis. This is where half the room says, what's Les Mis? And the person next to you will help you with that. Hunter Biden sings If Daddy Were a Big Shot, which is to the tune of If I Were a Rich Man from Fiddler on the Road. And Dr. Fauci sings I Am the Very Model of a Scientific Scientist, which is to the tune of I Am the Very Model of a Modern Major General from Gilbert and Sullivan. That's for those of you who didn't think Les Mis was obscure enough. And several other original songs. These are fun, unique gifts for, Republicans, if you know some. I will point out to you that we are barely 5 months away from Christmas. And if you think about the people you buy gifts for anyhow, somebody on your list would like them. And they don't have them because they're not in stores anywhere. If they haven't met me, they haven't seen the books, and I speak in New York City once every 5 years, so that's pretty unlikely. And sometimes I'm out of one, but not today. I've got all 7 books. I'm over here on the table. If you'd like to get a book or a set or whatever, I would be happy to oblige you. I can autograph them, I can do checks and credit cards and things like that. You get to cross somebody off your list early. They get a unique gift that nobody else amongst their friends will have, and it helps me do what I do, which is to travel the country and share these thoughts with nice folks like yourself. So if you'd like to check them out, that's awesome, and we're good. I don't know if you want me to do questions or we're going to move on.
Any questions from the audience?
Yes, sir.
You can't compare cars to housing. The reason is because a car manufacturer can make as many cars as it wants to, but with real estate, the problem is we're limited as to the number of vacant pieces of developable real estate. There's no way to increase that.
No, you are 100% incorrect, sir. Okay? We have so much land in this country, I suggest that you're on an airplane, look out the window.
But you're talking about New York City.
The entire, no, I'm talking about the entire country, okay? What's driving up the cost of land is land use restrictions. We've got so much empty land, it's ridiculous. The entire population of planet Earth, the entire population of the Earth could live just in the state of Texas, and every single one of them would have their own 10,000 square foot plot.
So most of the United States is undeveloped land, no question about it.
I'm not suggesting you just put more places in Manhattan.
I thought that's what you were.
Manhattan's pretty full, but you don't have to get very far away from Manhattan to find lots of potential for growth. And it's land use restrictions in the blue cities that's making it so hard to develop that. I mean, generally speaking, as a law of economics, if something is more valuable over here, that's where the builders are going to build. But it doesn't happen because the government sees its job as getting in the way of that, which is actually just making poor people poorer. Okay? This is left-wing visions in a nutshell. They think it makes poor people richer, it actually makes poor people poorer. Yes, sir.
Okay, a couple points you were making. Number one is the left-wing, the visionists, as you call them. The vision people think they've been proven right on climate change, because every time there's hurricanes, they go on there spouting, there's so many more hurricanes.
Yeah, because
so
that's because it's a non-scientific theory.
I understand.
Because it has to predict something ahead of time. Predicting it after the fact doesn't count.
They're running on that a lot.
I understand that. It's my leprechaun theory.
Okay, all right, so I disagree with you. I think that's, they're getting a lot of traction on that.
Okay, you're not disagreeing with me because you're talking about traction and I'm talking about reality. Okay, every single thing they can ascribe to carbon dioxide emissions, I can ascribe to leprechauns. When the next hurricane happens, I will predict the following day that it will happen because of the leprechauns. What they can't do is predict anything in the future, and by the way, we don't have more hurricanes. We have the same number of hurricanes pretty much over 10, 20 years that we've always had.
Okay, one other point, and you can make a comment on it.
Sure.
The thing about housing, you say, all I hear on the campaigns is that the Democrats, the visionists, want to produce so many low-priced housing for the people, and you're saying that that's not true?
That's correct. I'm saying that their policies make it impossible because they don't want to develop land. Okay? If you're going to make houses, you have to develop land to make the houses. What they want to do is take money away from some people and give it to other people they like better, but that does not increase the supply of anything.
You mentioned that the medical association or something like that, they would rather see less doctors than more doctors to jack up the price of medical
They're
care.
bribing your congressman to take your tax dollars to make sure that there's fewer doctors out there. It's happening right now.
So, and check me if I'm wrong, Bloomberg, he gave $1 billion or $2 billion to Johns Hopkins so that young people could study to be doctors at no cost to them because it's so expensive to go to medical school.
Oh, you may very well have.
Yeah.
But it doesn't change the fact that if you have a medical school you have 200 seats, okay? You could have 200 young people come in and begin their medical career. The United States Congress comes to you and says, if you leave 20 of those seats empty and only have 180 instead of 200 medical students in your particular school, we will pay you the tuition you would have gotten from those 20 empty seats from the taxpayers' money Sure, okay. The fact that Bloomberg is helping young people who make it past that to pay to go to medical school is lovely. That's great. But the restriction, as is the restriction of supply of virtually everything. And supply is what makes regular people wealthy.
With regard to the doctor student, and a friend of mine had to travel to the island of Dominica every year. There's something like 20 or 40,000 qualified medical students, but there are no seats.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
That's, I remember that.
And you know, if our government would have a policy to increase the number of doctors, the cost would go down. Barack Obama became president and said, and this has got to be his biggest policy, right? Is there anything he's more famous for than this? He could have said, I want healthcare cheaper, so I will change the laws so we'll have more doctors. And instead, he did the exact opposite. More bureaucracy, fewer doctors, more patients. But if socialists understood economics, they wouldn't be socialists. Yes, ma'am.
So this left-wing mindset seems to be very unproductive.
Sure.
So what's our future? Because we're
Well,
immersed in it,
It
especially
depends.
in New York.
We are immersed in it. It depends what we do about it. The greatest strength of the left, and this is what the gentleman over here was saying about traction, okay? The greatest strength of the left is that they're great at propaganda. They are way better at propaganda than we are. Would you like to know what their greatest weakness is? Their greatest weakness is they fall for their own propaganda. They start to believe it. I think Obama actually believed that his crazy implicit, which is why it was and remains so unpopular.
But it's so obvious that it's not going to work.
Yes, if you look at the accumulated knowledge of the human race, it's obvious it's not going to work. Just like Mamdani's, government-run grocery stores, and if there's domestic violence, we won't send the police.
Right.
We'll send a social worker.
Social worker.
Okay. You think that's going to work? It never works. But they fall for their own propaganda because they believe it.
So my point there was a few thoughts. So we deal with like a housing problems, like in between like New York, and of course LA, and of course Chicago, and of course Portland, and Seattle. That cause like all this the public housing issue in Boston. There is like a lack of a so-called CLTs, like all Canadian land trusts. That they forgot or they forget what's going on with the land values.
Sure.
So the two thoughts of the education system. The education system, like we're like the last one, and of course China be the top part. So that's number two. And then number three, the healthcare system. Because we got like more multilingual folks in New York and of course LA and of course the other cities to join the medical team. Then like the rest of the population get health care or get other things they need. Like how to all the three thoughts, how to help them out or strengthen or get strengthening.
Okay, I'm not following all of that, but the left-wing politicians who control virtually every city in America have bad ideas, and the cities go to hell. And then they somehow manage to convince their voters that it's the Republicans' fault, even though there aren't any Republicans. Yeah. Okay, New York City and Seattle and Portland, you mentioned, there were Republicans in those cities. Okay, the Republicans couldn't do anything in those cities they wanted to, but they managed to convince their voters that somehow it's evil Republicans that hold no offices at all that are causing all these problems, whereas we just got more brilliant ideas after the other. which are the cause of the problem. At some point, one has to assume that this collapses of its own weight and everybody wakes up. But maybe they don't. I don't know.
Leprechauns.
Leprechauns may be the way to go.
So, I understand all your, what you're saying about left-wing policies, but I think the problem we have to address is that there's two reasons for that we end up with this. And I was going to, I'm going to be speaking also, but I wanted to say there are two reasons for it. One is what I call American Idol voters and cheating spouse voters. So American Idol voters get so excited about a candidate, they forget what they're voting for. And then we have cheating spouse voters. These are the people like, you know, they're with someone who knows is like a married man or a married woman, and they want to believe so badly everything this person is saying that they forget about everything. And this is why a lot of these ridiculous policies have so much support, because they just want to believe it so badly, you know. And as far as the housing is concerned, my main focus of my campaign was housing. And I had one postcard with one issue on it. I said, well, let me not overwhelm people. And I watched person after person, after I handed in my postcard, read a couple lines and then put it in a bag, put it in a pocket. Because they have what I do web design and I do online advertising. They have the same attention span as people who visit websites. They look at it for seconds, and if you don't captivate their attention, they go on. You'd rather not do the research on candidates or anything like that. But as far as the housing goes, no one should believe this affordable housing lie. Okay? It's a big lie. The city of Yes is a big lie. So for example, one of these developers are building are essentially luxury buildings. Okay. One, they are sprinkling in a bunch of quote-unquote affordable housing. But what nobody forgets to ask these politicians when they raise these issues is,
Did you have a question for me? Because I think you're getting your turn. Okay. Okay. What? Here, let me respond to what you said. Because we're going to give you the microphone.
No, I wanted to touch on this housing issue as we're talking about right now. So the housing issue is that, you know, they're not asking how much the housing is and how much the income requirements are. So these are the issues. These housing also, we're building housing, we're voting for this housing, we are financing this housing, but there's nothing reserved for anyone in this city. So no matter if they're building a building filled with affordable housing, it doesn't mean it's for you. It doesn't mean you're going to qualify with the income requirements. It doesn't mean you're going to get an apartment.
Okay, ma'am.
Yeah.
But you're going to get a shot at this, so you can finish it off. Let me just respond to what you said, because I want to get out of here. My foot's hurting me. I had a very broad thought a long time ago, which is, are people smart or are they stupid? I bet most of us have oscillated back and forth. Like some days you turn on the news and say, wow, the voter, the average American out there is really smart, you can't fool him. And then other days you're like, oh my gosh, they're as dumb as a rock. And you know the answer I came up with? The answer I came up with is in the marketplace, the capitalist marketplace. By and large, people are pretty smart. When they're going to buy a car, they do some research, they're making sure they're getting the best car, they're reading all the articles and checking the statistics. When they're involved in politics and they're going to the voting booth, they're like, oh, he's so handsome, and he smiles at the camera so nicely, I gotta vote for that guy. You get better results in the market than you get in the voting booth because democracy doesn't work very well. Capitalism, on the other hand, works really well. We'll talk about that another day. Thank you so much.
We're just going to stay for a brief moment. The club has bought basically 5 more copies of the books from him. If you want to buy directly from him, it's 20 copies.
Okay. If you are interested in checking out the books, I'll be over there and I'll tell you all about it. Okay?
And then it's $25 a book, or if you want to buy multiple copies. But anyway.
Okay. As I said, it's more complicated than that. See me over there, and I will tell you everything.
If you want some free copies, you're welcome to. All right, let's get to the main events in the evening of the candidates. Can I, Paul, would you please come up? And Nickie, let's see, James, George. Let's see, who else do we have here? Selma, would you please come up? Okay, as you all know, the primary was over about 2 weeks ago. And they're going to be, several of them have ran in the primary. Some of them are trying to get on the ballot, but sort of failed. Some of them are success, some of them are still going to be running in the November ballot. They're going to share with you their stories and hopefully lessons that we could pass on to other candidates down the road. Okay, let me go ahead. I guess we're going to start from this end. So, Paul? Basically, whatever you want to say, just hopefully something from your
Hi everyone, thank you for having me tonight. I just ran for City Council District 30, which is Middle Village, Maspeth, Glendale, Ridgewood, Elmhurst, and Regal Park. It was a great experience. I ran as a first-time candidate. I've been a community activist in the neighborhood for several years now. Definitely, I would encourage people to get involved politically. It's definitely something that it'll definitely help you out in figuring out that it is a club and you have to break into it. So we were told, no, you can't do this, no, you can't do that. And we wound up running a successful campaign. We did come in second place in our primary, but overall we did score over 5,200 votes and 48.5% of our votes. I did run as a Democrat, which I know is the most popular thing in this room, but ultimately I think the problem with our government right now is that we're going from a top-down policy instead of a bottom-up government, which we should have. So knowing about like the grassroots aspects of it, fundraising locally, not having any nefarious donors, I think that's what benefits the people in the community. And when we were running our campaign, we were running for the regular people, the people that actually that are in this room that really want to have a voice in the government. So like government seems like it's big and broad, but ultimately I think that we could boil this down to a more seeable method where it's it's cleaning up the local parks, it's putting public art out there, it's making sure that our streets are safe and clean. And making sure that we have community outreaches. NYPD is not the adversary. You can obviously we do. Also president of the Middle Village Property Owners and Residents Association, and in that group we actually have meetings where we bring local law enforcement in and they talk to the community. And it's really just getting people more in line with the people that are in the government, knowing the different stages of the government, knowing where problems are solved in different capacities. So I think that's the main thing. I think a lot of people are confused by like, who do I go to with this problem? City council would be the first person you go to, then you have a state assembly person, state senator, U.S. congressperson, and so on. And I really appreciate the people that came out to vote for me, and I appreciate the people that actually decided to run. It takes a lot out of you. I have a young family, getting learn to cope with it, and if you know you're doing the right thing. And to my friend's point over there as well, I think that like if you go through human history, I think the most important thing is like not to worry so much about man, it's to put God over man. And that's one thing that I always ran on. I always believe in God first. And I feel like the issues that we have with the medical industry and everything is that we're not putting people over. We're not putting God over man. Man is always going to be devious and find ways to connive and achieve their goals. But if you believe in yourself and you actually take care of yourself, you don't need to worry about the medical industry as much. If you're drinking the right water, if you're actually eating the right foods, if you look at like the issues that are going on ultimately like with the food that we're putting into our bodies, we're putting into our kids' bodies, it's not helping them. The obesity is way up, and obesity and diabetes and all these illnesses are easily negated through health, wellness, farmers markets. There's different ways that we can do different things. So I thank you guys for your time tonight, and I appreciate being here today. Thank you, Daddy. Thank you.
We're a team. There's no I team, but it's a dog in my team. Okay, so my name is Nickie Kane. I'm running for New York City Council District 39. I ran in the Democratic primary, and I wanted to share my experience of running for office. So this is my second time running for office. I got kicked off the ballot the first time because I listed a position I'm running for as city council instead of city council member. This is my second time running, and I ran in the Democratic primary. I funded my whole campaign myself. Spent less than $1,000. So anybody who tells you they need millions of dollars to run a campaign, it's a big lie. I created my own website. I designed my own card. I printed my own card. Everything was done by me. I did every signature on my petition was collected by myself, both for the primary, Democratic primary, and for the independent. So anyone who asks you for tons of money is just a big liar and just out to get your money. So as far as the petitioning was, the electioneering was concerned, I had a very interesting experience where I was in the one polling site handing out my cards, and I created a poster on a phone board and I had it displayed on an easel. So it's not on public property, it's not anywhere, but my opponents couldn't handle that because to them it was unfair that I had a poster and they couldn't have a poster too. So they went to the Board of Elections and complained and complained and complained until the Board of Elections employees started calling the police on me, even though I'm standing 400 feet away from the entrance. And all of their supporters make sure they complain every time they saw it. But you know what? My sign was on an easel 400 feet away from the entrance. And then on top of that, every candidate is allowed to appoint a poll watcher. A poll watcher's responsibility is to make sure when they start doing the voting, there's no extra scanned ballots. That if somebody's coming to vote and their signature doesn't look right, you can challenge that. You can also get the number of votes for that day. And first, basically ensuring that our election is free of fraud and interference. As a candidate also, you're allowed to do this. Of course, the Board of Elections wouldn't allow me to do this. They would really call the police on me. I complained to the management. They still, wouldn't allow me. I'm also a paralegal student and misrepresented the law to justify not letting me in. So I went to the court. I filed a complaint in the court against the Board of Elections and the other campaigner was harassing me. The court made sure that nothing in that complaint got heard. It made one excuse after another, saying that I had to register as a poll watcher, and I had to do this and I had to do it, which of course is contradictory to the law. So what I'm trying to convey to you is that our government has been hijacked by special interests, and that is the problem we have right now. And we've lost sight of what government is for. Government is for pooling resources to make sure that one day you're ill and no longer can work, or you're run out of money, that you're not homeless, that you're not starving, that you're not ill without medical attention. Our government has become, as I said, hijacked by special interests. And I'm still battling in court with this issues, and the problem why we're not getting this resolved is because the Board of Elections is in on this. The courts are complicit in this. And I want you all here to know that your primary responsibility is to make sure, regardless of who the candidates are, which party they are, that we are entitled to free and fair elections. And the only way we're going to get this is by making sure we have an army of people that are there to make sure that they're fair. So you volunteer to become a poll watcher, volunteer to check signatures on petitions. These are the way you, as a regular person, can make sure our elections are free and fair. And on top of that, don't fall for this affordable housing nonsense. It is luxury housing with a promise of affordability. I had a supervisor once say to me that a promise is a comfort to a fool. And you're a fool if you believe these housing is for you, because if there's a video I posted on my platform, all of my social media, where the guy explains it brilliantly. They build a building in a neighborhood, the average income is $61,000. And then they make the income requirements for these apartments that are affordable, $75,000. So how many people in that neighborhood are going to be able to qualify for that apartment? This is exactly what these buildings are doing to these neighborhoods. They're causing gentrification. They're bringing in higher income people to the neighborhood. They're going to raise prices. They're going to do the opposite. And the city officials are fully aware of this. So don't fall for it. So I just encourage you to get more involved, even if you just become a poll watcher on election day, or if you're just going to sit down in the BOD office and check signatures for a person. This is the way we get to fight back against these politicians who love tons of money and other issues. I had my opponent, despite not needing enough signatures, she forged 2 signatures herself. And not only did the court want to address this, they made use all kind of bureaucratic rules for even that to be heard by the court. Then I went to the appellate division, which is the first appeals court. He just affirmed the lower court's decision, in my opinion. Court of Appeals, toughest court in New York State doesn't want to hear it. So don't think that the government is going to do anything to rectify, make sure your elections are free and fair, and don't think the courts are either. All right, thank you.
No, go ahead. So my name is Japneet Singh. Thank you so much first and foremost to Daniel for the invitation. I was going to come about 2 months ago when you had invited me, but we were in the midst of a very heated primary. I just ran for District 28, which was the Speaker's district, Adrian Adams. And as you can, as the sister articulated here, we were up against a lot of dark money. We came in out of 5, we came in second. It went through the whole process of ranked choice voting, but we were outspent 10-1. And not because of city matching funds, but because of special interests. The person I ran against, who was the handpicked candidate by the speaker, basically had access to Airbnb, DoorDash. They spent over $1.2 million on a city council race, making it the most expensive city council race to date. And actually, he was the 3rd most expensive candidate, right behind Cuomo and Mamdani.
What was the guy?
Ty Hankerson. So the fact that so many people are running around the city, there were so many mayoral candidates running, the fact that he got the 3rd most PAC money for a city council race, that to me, 3 years ago, is funny because I was in Middle Village and someone called me a socialist. This time around, what exactly these terms mean, because it's in terms of just labeling. Gerrymandered, and I don't know if you guys been to Richmond Hill, and the district used to go up until Atlantic Avenue, right? 2 years ago, they rezoned everything. They used Liberty Avenue as the stencil, and everything south of Liberty Avenue is still District 28, and everything north of Liberty Avenue is now connected right here to Forest Hills. So now, it's funny, right before I came here, I went to Paris Baguette right here on Austin Street. I'm like, this is connected to Richmond Hill. Isn't that a thing? And in the other side where I ran, that part is connected to Rochdale Village. And if you've ever been to Rochdale Village, those buildings alone have about 5,000 to 6,000 voters, Democrat voters. And Adrian Adams conveniently has her office right there. Meaning 2/3 of the district has never been served before. I don't want to sound like a candidate that's still running because I'm not, but the reason I ran was because of that. I have my master's in accounting from Queens College. I was a corporate accountant, and I saw the chaos in which our community was living in, my family was living in. And I told myself I can sit on the sidelines and yell and scream, or I can get in the ring and fight. And that's what we did. And the fact that out of 5 candidates in a predominantly African-American district, we came in second with 4,600 votes, 42% of the vote total. That made me realize there's an appetite for a new generation of politics that doesn't prioritize party politics, money politics, but it's about the people. We door knocked over 70,000 doors. Basically, door knocked each door about 3 or 4 times, depending on the area. But one thing I learned is that we're still very deeply divided by race and ethnicity, and these things that, I'll be honest, that the system has perpetuated for way too long. When Hurricane Ida happened 3 years ago, I didn't look at anyone's race before I helped them out, right? And it impacted Southeast Queens 4 years ago, sorry. Same thing with Hurricane Sandy, same thing when 9/11 happened. We didn't look at person's race or ethnicity before we went out and helped them. And I think right now our government, whether you're a Republican or a Democrat, it's the same thing going on across the aisle. Because if you look at it, and I always say follow the money, I'm an accountant by trade, follow the money, it's the same people funding both parties. So how can you say that this party wants better for me, wants the same donors? So I always say, you gotta really, look, in my family, you had my dad who voted for Harris, and you have my mom who voted for Trump. You know, a lot of South Asians did. And I think that's okay if that's the way they were made to feel, that that's who's gonna represent them the best. But I think we need to stop prioritizing people over politics. And that's been my focus now. It's been about 3 weeks since the results have been finalized. And now I just want to make sure we go to every space and they see a guy in a turban, right? There's some people that don't even know who a Sikh is, right? Sometimes I still get labeled as a Muslim or a Hindu or whatever the case may be, but we have our own identity. And I think the generation that came before me didn't have the opportunity to really introduce themselves because they're so busy working and creating a future for their families. But now it's our generation's job to make sure we bridge that gap. So I'm thankful to Daniel for allowing us to do this. But I also encourage you, if you guys ever want to come out to Richmond Hill and learn about the Sikh community, it's all about building communities and making sure that we lean on each other in times of crisis. And in my neighborhood, I know I think Mashpet has this too, but there's 4 lithium-ion battery storage facilities coming in. And this is the speaker's district, and she didn't tell anybody. So, and one is right across the street from my cousin's house. And the fact that it's pretty much done. It's already done. So the fact that that was going on for 2 years and we had no idea of it, that's a problem. And I think those things we don't have to be a Democrat or Republican to agree on. And that's what we're going to fight for. So thank you so much, Daniel. Thank you for the opportunity.
She noted that she wanted to add one.
So I brought up a lot of issues, but I didn't give you guys a solution. So I will still be a candidate on the ballot in November for City Council 39 as an independent candidate. And I chose the nominating body voters first because I think it should be about voters first. And we cannot get a political system that's for the people and by the people if we keep having super PACs. And in the last minute of my city council race, a PAC threw down $100,000 for the incumbent. So my solutions to this is make sure we empower the independent candidates, myself and small candidates. So I'm going to be contemplating starting a group that is called Independent Candidates Coalition, where we're going to have Facebook groups and all of these tricks that the other parties use. We can use them also to make sure that we help little candidates, that we can pool our resources together. And one other thing, I don't know who else is still in the ballot, but I was considering printing a palm card for all independent candidates to be listed for each position, mayor, city council, etc. So these are some solutions I have for us that encourage you to get involved, even if it's just going and checking 5 signatures in voter elections. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, good evening. Good evening.
Good evening to you.
I'm Dr. Selma Bartholomew, and thank you so much, Brother Daniel, for having me back. I was just now on the ballot for mayor of New York City on the Democratic primary. And so I was one of the, a candidate that was not in the Democratic club, and I stepped into the race because I wanted change. I live in the Bronx, I'm an educator, I'm a mom, I'm a New Yorker, I love the city, and wanted to see a bigger vision for New York, a vision around really building businesses, building up community, cleaning up our streets, really fixing our educational system, and more importantly also about people. That really, my campaign is about people. One of the big lessons learned, right? Because I stepped into the field and fought a Goliath, a money machine, and obviously our Democratic clubs have been pushing a failed mayor called Cuomo on us, and all of the others in the race. It's always a chess game, not a checkers game, and so you think that other people were in the race, but really they were really being used as decoys, and they spent a lot of money to hide my name from the media. And so one of the first articles I had to write was Dear New York Times, the letter F is for you, because they refused to publish my name as a candidate, and that was the challenge that I was facing. But they wanted everyone to think that Adrienne Adams was the only black woman in the race. I do see a clearing of the field right now. I haven't made some decisions about next steps, but I'm still thinking about how to now really, continue on this fight, because the election is in November. I'm not done yet. One of the biggest lessons learned, as you were talking about this process, how I see this world is all about relationships at the end of the day, and I do believe in God, a creator, and I know that we have all of these different camps, but I think at the end of the day, when the fruit falls to the tree, right, the creator is feeding all of us, and so it's really important to care for each other. The system is absolutely rigged. It is rigged. It is absolutely rigged. And it was important for me to learn how it's rigged so that I can now share it with others who may know that they're not getting change and know that they're not getting opportunity in the city. So one of the big challenges that I faced was I was denied the debate stage as a Democratic candidate. And the reason why I was denied the debate stage is for the first debate, you had to spend $198,000. Wow, right? Wow. Spend, not earn. And for the second debate, you had to spend almost $2.4 million. So that means overall a candidate had to spend almost $2.5 million just to be on the debate stage. And they designed it in such a way, even if they said, okay, it was about spend and it was a candidate who didn't spend, did they give the other candidate a few minutes or whatever? So no. So the system is absolutely rigged. It is rigged. And I don't think that we've been communicating how it's been rigged by either parties. So I haven't heard the Republican Party say that this is something that happens, and I haven't heard the Democratic Party say this is something that happens, because I do think at the end of the day that it is about the fact that they are getting candidates who are responsible to big money. Candidates who we think we're voting for, but in reality, it is about the money, and it is about owning those candidates. And so I'm so honored. My campaign trailblazer is here, Dr. Medicia Orr. And so we left it all on the field. I spent the time in the community talking to people, sharing my vision for the city. They also spent a lot of money to deny me forums and things like that. So it was a fight, and it continues to be a fight. And I'm not done yet. My first name is Selma. I'm not done. I'm not done. No, I'm not done. I'm not done. I know that they would like to think that I'm done, but I'm not done. And the reason why is just simple. As I pass the mic, I own a business in New York City, and I certainly, I don't agree in the context of all the MAGA politics that's happening now. I just think it's such a divisiveness in terms of us getting to know each other as a city and as a country, right? But I'm in New York City, and I am in a Democratic city. And as I shared the last time, the filthy truth is the pain that I feel in a Democratic city was not as a result of the Republican leadership. It's a result of being in a city with Democratic leaders where for every dollar, black people make less than half a penny. And so they're using the black struggle, they're using our cause and things like that, but in reality, they are not accountable to community, whether it be black, white, and I don't see it, we should not, continue this divisiveness about race. We have to put people first. We have to care about each other, we have to care about our elderly, we have to clean up our city, we have to care about each other. And so the gentleman talked about all of the things by way of which we're not equal, but I would also say to you that I know my identity, but I'm here also because this gentleman identified with me, and I identify with others. That it's time that we kind of see what is it that we have in common, and I think we all want a city that's clean, a city that's safe, a city that we can actually, fundamentally love, and that we know that we have opportunity for not just, the selected few. So my big lessons learned is I learn. That once you learn something and you learn the process, that's the win. That's the real win. And I'm about to educate a whole lot of people. And I went around educating a whole lot of people about the fact that this is how the system has been set up to continuously feed the wealthy who can afford to buy their politicians, the wealthy who can afford the PACs. And so I thank you for the grace. I thank you, Daniel, thank you so much for having me. And I just thank you for just being open and just having an honest conversation with me about what is it that you're hopeful for the city. Because I will be the first woman mayor of New York City. I'm not going anywhere. I want it, and I'm going to go fight for it. Thank you.
I don't know how I'm topping that. My name is James Leonard. I I ran for mayor, unsuccessfully getting on the ballot, first time, and I've learned a lot. One of my findings from this is that we do need, us as individuals, this is my first time involved with politics, I was behind the scenes in previous administration, but we need to get involved. Everybody here, whether it's signing signatures for someone for a petition, going to vote. If you don't like them, don't just go to vote and take the one that least appeals to you. I have no favorite or no horses in this race at this point, but we need as individuals to get out and influence, the elections as people, because that's how people gravitate. That's how some people have won elections in the past. New York City's different. Yes, it's a money power machine, but and more of the people come out, the more they'll take us serious. There are a lot of issues. We can talk about crime. We can talk about the housing. I'm not going to talk about housing. I'm an architect. I'll keep you here till midnight and tell you all the problems of the city, but not. But the point being is that each and every one of us, we each live in different communities. We have different needs. But we come together as New Yorkers, and we need to work together. What may work for Daniel's neighborhood may not work for mine, and vice versa, but we need to understand that. I ran under the no to the city of yes. I'm not for it, but I'm for development, the right development in the city. It's not that I want to stop it, no one should build, but there comes a point you got to ask yourself the big questions. How are you going to develop the city? How is the city going to turn out for the future generations? We have a population that's, I believe, in excess of 9 million people, the unaccounted for, but we need to provide services. We also need to provide jobs. We need to provide the ability for people to live here with the quality of life, not, just getting by, choosing between a car or rent or something. Things need, yes, to be made affordable. And the gentleman that was here before is supply and demand. Make more housing, as long as it's done right. Make more housing, the price should go down. But the problem is what they're building, and I don't want to now I'm getting into it, sorry. The problem is the cost of construction does not make this feasible for the working person. You're building buildings at $500 a square foot, plus land is now at $300-400 a square foot. And when you're done, you got $5-10 million, you got a $20-30 million project. He's not going to have the affordable housing. Plus, a lot of things people don't know, as others have said, it's not affordable. They're not building affordable because of the cost of construction and the land. Plus the infrastructure that are now going to be taxed. You got further beating on it, right? You put in 200 units, and let's say there's 400 kids. Where are they going? What school? That's one school. That could be one elementary school. Who's building the school? We're paying for it. And the real kick in the butt that no one's talking about is this tax abatement from Albany, the 458. Well, some of them, they will not be on the tax rolls, some situations, for 40 years, which means they pay no tax in the beginning, and it progressively goes up. Where do they pay this? The only reason why they're not building right now, my belief, is because the interest rate's not low enough for them. And the president is talking about bringing it down to 1%. That's great, but that's not going to drop the price of these houses. It's economic supply and demand. So, not to stay on the topic, but that's just one issue. And as the others have all said here, there's sugarcoating it. They're putting homeless shelters in neighborhoods. Yes, we should all do our fair share, but it has to be done in a right way that works for every neighborhood. Everybody's different. Every neighborhood has a different requirement and demand. I'm out in Southeast Queens. Transportation, biggest thing in the world. We can't get anywhere. It takes us forever just to get, 2 miles. You have housing issues up here, old buildings somewhere, there's schools, whatever it is, but as a group, we should come together, individuals, these different organizations, civics, and you pick out a candidate, and these people here, and you tell them, this is my needs, this is our needs. And so the point I'm getting at is, we all need to get involved. Yes, we're only one vote of 8 points, or 2, 3, 4 million people, but we need to get involved. You make yourself known, you make noise, you do something, you get rally, you get a hold of the elected officials, hold them accountable. That's one thing that never happens. They all say you see them every 4 years or every 2 years. Yeah, whatever you want, and then they go away. I'm going to quote someone I shouldn't quote, but they said to me, no one's looking for a people's candidate. Not going to say where it came from. I was told this in an argument, and no. And anyway, for safety reasons. But this is their attitude. Everyone has an agenda, and it leaves us out. And that's one of the reasons why I got it. Because you're just tired of getting things pushed down your throat. You're tired of not getting what you need in your community, whether it's schools, hospitals. I remember growing up in Queens, how many hospitals were in Queens? Remember, there was like Mary Immaculate in Jamaica. You could go every 5 blocks and find a hospital. Now we have 6, maybe 4, right? Something like that, 6 or 4 hospitals, and that's it. So we need these services. Schools, all the Catholic schools and the private schools are closing. The public schools are overflowing. We don't have enough schools. The infrastructure, all these things that are being missed on that nobody's talking about. Yeah, we're talking about the crime, but really, the candidates do not talk about the issues, and that's where we come in. We have to force them. So, whoever your horse is in this race, or the person, but just, press them, press their people. Why want an answer? Because most of them, if you listen to them, they never tell you what they're going to do. Nobody has a solution. I'm going to get rid of city of yes. Great. What are you going to do after that? They don't know. You're going to ask any of them. I'm going to take care of crime. How are we going to do it? What are we going to do with people that, I have a whole family. I've worked on a draft for the bail reform. What are we doing? People should be held accountable. But you don't throw them away. They're human beings. You have to give them a choice. You have to be able for them to come back, get back into society where they can be productive. And people make mistakes. We all make mistakes. We're human. Not talking about the egregious, talking about the incident that leads to a career of being a criminal. So these are different things that we as citizens of New York, this Forest Hills, Richmond Hill, Middle Village, Queens Village, Rockaway, that's what we need to do to our candidates. Press them. Don't be afraid to press them. And put them on the spot. And to get other people to put them on the spot. Or go on their website if they take questions and just leave it for them. What are you doing about this? You'll get the same BS answer, and they may not do anything, but that's what you should. But anyway, I don't want to thank you, Daniel. Thank you all the candidates that ran. And hope to see everybody again soon.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I wanted to just add to you, I know all of these problems, but I feel like I know that it's a leadership problem. I know we don't have a money problem, and if anybody does not know this, in the new budget that just passed with Adrian Adams and with our mayor, they gave $400 million to renovate Fifth Avenue. $400 million to renovate Fifth Avenue, given all the problems we have in our city. So it's really a leadership problem that we have. And I don't know if they actually get to press us. From my experience of doing this mayor's race, I think that so much of the lack of thinking, like there's just these very low-level questions, these quick forums, and so people don't get a chance to really hear from the candidates, and they don't get a chance to really share their solutions and candidates down our throat. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you everybody for coming, and Daniel, thank you once again for letting me speak. So my name is David Rama. I'm a Republican for mayor of New York City. And I tried running against AOC a few years ago, and the Rhino Republican of Queens wouldn't give me the time of day because they had their candidate, Tina Forte, who just runs every year to make a money grab. They didn't want any competition, no primary. So this mayoral campaign, they have anointed Curtis Sliwa as the Republican candidate. However, Curtis Sliwa didn't have a primary again. Nobody went against him. I wanted to go up against him. They didn't want to have him because they can't control me. They can't pay me off. And in my opinion, Curtis Sliwa is the Kamala Harris of the Rhino Republican Party,
Because like I said, he was not voted in by Republican voters. He was anointed. Okay, so today I just got back from City Hall. I'm wearing an Eric Adams shirt. There was a big Eric Adams rally today. He was endorsed by corrections, police, sanitation police, all of the big, the security departments of this country to keep us safe. But I want to start by just saying the reason why. Last night I went down to the Community Finance Board and I canceled my running for mayor. I had to fill out some forms. But I wanted to come here today because New York City is in a crossroads. This mayoral election is going to decide whether New York City is destroyed or we continue as a city. And the one independent mayoral candidate, Jim Walden, a few weeks ago, came out with a wonderful idea. And the idea is that we need in New York City anybody except the communist Zoran Mondani. And Mr. Walden, it's a great idea. It's called the Pledge. And he was the first one to stand up and say, I will take the pledge right now. Former Governor Cuomo also took the pledge. And the pledge entails whoever is the #1 polling candidate against Zoran Mondani come Labor Day, which is typically when the election season starts to get into fine gear. Come Labor Day approximately, whoever's polling #1, that's the candidate to go solely one-on-one against Zoran Mondani. However, there's a problem with that. I watched Eric Adams the other night, and before the interview with him, there was 2 reporters talking about Curtis Lewa. And they said, Curtis Lewa is never going to take the pledge because he just raised, in the last filing, with the 8-to-1, $3 million. And that is Curtis Lewa's retirement. So, and Eric Adams was asked on the TV interview if he would take the pledge. And he wouldn't answer. He said, Governor Cuomo is a liar, and he's not going to drop out if he's not for polling as the #1 candidate. So he skewed the question, however. So the bottom line is, I just want to let you people know that we are inches from getting Zoran Mondani as a mayor. If the 4 candidates, only 2 of them have accepted the pledge, if the 4 candidates do not take the pledge and do not follow through with their word to drop out, we are getting Zoran Mondani as a mayor because there is no candidate, not Eric Adams, not Curtis Lewa, not Andrew Cuomo, that can get 35% of the vote. Once Zoran Mondani gets 35% of the vote, it's over. There's a new poll that just came out. Zoran Mondani now has surged to 40%. Cuomo 24, hear me out. Cuomo 24, Adams 15, and Curtis 14, with 15% of the vote not unknown. Curtis Lewa had up until yesterday's filing $53,000 raised. $53,000. I spoke for Donald Trump at Madison Square Garden, wherein I announced my candidacy for mayor. And I said, Mayor Eric Adams is the worst mayor we've ever had. He is worse than Bill de Blasio and David Dinkins combined. And so I don't even hate any of them. I'm just saying we cannot have Zoran Mondani running our city. He will destroy it. He is for defunding the police. He made a ridiculous statement the other day in the news that the police shouldn't be sent to domestic violent scenes. Domestic violent scenes, occurrences, are the most dangerous call a policeman will ever go to. Worse than a bank robbery. And this clown wants, this communist clown that wants to take away all supermarkets. By the way, John Casmatidis and the owner of Gristedes, Red Apple, and all the other supermarkets, they are scared shit. He said, I'm going to have to close my supermarkets. Zoran Mandami wants government supermarkets. Selma's saying here, the bodegas. The bodegas that are voting for him, he's going to put them out of business. So, after my speech at Madison Square Garden, I had 15 politicians come up to me. David, you crushed the speech. Wonderful, amazing. Sid Rosenberg said, you got my vote. I'm not voting for Curtis, I'm voting for you. I said, Sid, come on. Curtis is your guy. Stop bullshitting me. I thank you for the praise. I'm not here for the praise. And then they said something very key that Selma was referring to. And first of all, I know you're a Democrat, right? Okay. No, I don't mean nothing by it. I meant that you said that you didn't know if in the Republican primary there's the thing about the money. Of course. Worse than the Democratic Party, by the way. So they said, David, I think it was Matt Gaetz, or Vivek, I'm going to pronounce his name, Ramaswamy, or whatever, the man that ran for president. He said, I heard you announce you're going to run for mayor of New York City. He says, are you kidding or are you serious? I said, I'm serious as a heart attack. By the way, my ex-wife was sitting in the audience. She was sitting 2 seats away from Rudy Giuliani. She told me after, when I came to the VIP section in the 3rd row behind Donald's wife and Elon and all of us, she said, David, when you announced that you were going to run for mayor of New York City, Rudy Giuliani almost fell out of his chair. And this is a true story. You can look it up in the papers. That was on October 27, 2024, 9 days before our most consequential presidential election. A week later in the newspaper, Rudy Giuliani put a piece out and it said, don't count me out as mayor. I still might throw my hat in as mayor. But I just remember what my ex said. He almost fell out of the chair. Okay. Now, they're saying that Curtis might have raised $3 million with the matching funds, but I just say this, it's not enough. They said to me at Madison Square Garden to run a mayoral race, to even just start it, you need a minimum of $5 million. Like the woman was saying, they wouldn't even let her get on stage in the debate because she didn't spend $100, $200, $500,000. $2.5 million. It's all rigged. It's all controlled by the big money. Like I said, to be honest, I don't care if it's Governor Cuomo in any order. Mayor Adams, Governor Cuomo, Curtis Sliwa, Jim Walden. I don't care. But you can't throw your vote away on a candidate that has no chance at winning. You can't vote like I always did with my heart. You have to vote with your brain because we are this close from being destroyed. And as New York City goes, the country goes. So this is just people say, I don't live in New York City, I don't care. Well, now in Minneapolis, Minnesota, we have a communist socialist like Mandami running for mayor in Minneapolis, Minnesota as well. So we need to put the fire under these 4 candidates' feet, and we need to press them to take the pledge. Take Mr. Independent mayoral candidate Jim Walden's pledge. Otherwise, we're going to lose it. We're going to lose it. And I'm going to wrap up. Mandami said we don't need police, defund the police. This isn't Venezuela. We don't want Venezuelan government supermarkets. He gave the fuck you finger to the Christopher Columbus statue. Monday at 11 a.m. in front of Zoran Mandani's campaign office in Astoria on 32nd Avenue, there's a rally against him. Anybody wants to come, please come. And just want to say 1 or 2 more things and I'm done. I'm here not for me, not for this. I'm here to let you guys be aware how close we are to total destruction. New York City has never been in this position before. I think I'm good. And just be careful. Be careful who you vote for. Don't throw your vote away on a candidate that you might love, that has no realistic chance and winning. Don't do it. Thank you very much.
This is going to be quick, and we're going to get out of here because I talked to 10,000 people, and I enjoyed every bit of it. You know, my name is George Marsh, and I tried to get on the ballot for mayor. What an experience, first time ever, and I learned so much. I learned so much about people. I learned so much about the process, and I'm more interested in where it is. What I came, you know, after this whole thing got shot down, I rested. It was a whole new type of tiredness. It was, you know, physically, mentally, emotionally. I mean, I rallied at one point a whole bunch of people, and for an hour I couldn't get one signature up on the Upper West Side, you know, and that's what it was highs and lows. It was an emotional thing. And that's what we're here for. You know, we're not here for, you know, all what could be. You want lower income housing? Hit them in their pockets. That's what. You got a big corporation that takes losses on vacant housing throughout this city, and they don't care. Hit them in their pockets. They'll drop the prices. They'll rent them out because they have to. Okay? You know, first year vacancy, okay, you get rid of it the first year. If it's repeated year after year after year, drop your prices. Rent them out. You know, there's a solution for everything. I'm saddened that I've got to come back, drive over here, and see the same situations going on in the city, and I won't have a part of it. Now, I'm thinking right now, and I told Dan, I'm thinking about being a supportive role, backing a horse in this race. And like you say, you know, Mandani is the new bling right now. He's got no substance, but he's the new bling. The kids, and they're all out there. You know, Curtis is tired. I love him. He's tired, but, you know, can he come up? Yeah, he can take off the bandana, and, you know, sure. I don't know what it's going to take. But you know what? I've got the energy. I got the passion for the city. I love this city, and I even love it more, you know. People that said I didn't have a fighting chance after the Democratic thing said, George, I'm voting for you. And I wasn't even on the ballot yet. So, you know, it all increased. It was a beautiful experience. Thank you, Dan. Thanks for that guy in the back making the coffee and cleaning the pots. Who's that? What's his name? Robert, thank you very much, and all the people that set up. Thank you. Good night.
Unfortunately, it's now 9:34. We usually have time for questions, so I guess any one of the candidates want to say some last words before we close the meetings, and we'll look to ask a question to the candidates directly at the meeting.
Don't count me out. I hear that you need a hero. Don't count me out. Don't count me out.
I just want to add, I have the site, the poll. I can send it to you. You can give me your email. The latest poll has it. If Cuomo goes up against Mandani, 1-1, Cuomo wins by 15 points. If Mandani goes up against, if Eric Adams would be the last standing top poll candidate, Adams loses to Mandani by 8 points. Curtis is not even on the chart. So that's the reality. It's got to be Adams or Cuomo, and I couldn't care less. I don't like Cuomo. Cuomo killed grandparents during the pandemic. Okay? Worse than that, personal to my life. Cuomo threw my daughter out of school on June 13, 2019, when he signed off on the religious exemption that existed in New York State for kids to go to school that are not vaccinated, that don't have the 73 shots of the child immunization schedule. My daughter's never been vaccinated. So I have a very bad piece in my heart for ex-Governor Cuomo. So people tell me, oh, we hear you hate Curtis. It's not true. I don't like any of the three of them. I'm a city worker. I saw my city workers get thrown out of their jobs because they refused the COVID jab. guys and women that lost their pension in the Department of Sanitation. I don't like Adams either. I don't like Cuomo. Curtis probably more so than ever is because he won't drop out. He won't take the pledge and do what's right for New York City residents. Adams too, he's kind of on the, I don't think he would drop out either. So those, I go back and forth, but I don't like either three of them. So don't think that I love Curtis or I hate Curtis, because they just have all flaws. They're all flawed. Yes, sir.
I think you said it right. There is no story behind those three candidates, and New Yorkers are looking for a story at the end of the day, and they don't value any of those individuals, and the media is keeping us from really having a true New York story. So don't count me out yet.
You gotta pick the winner. You gotta pick the winner.
Okay, so it's now, let's see, 9:37. Do I have a, we want to announce a winner of the 50-50. Alex Pogozelski.
Oh, gosh.
Anything you like on the table? Okay, the winner of the 50-50 raffle. Do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Any questions? Anybody have any questions for
Well,
anything?
let me ask you directly, so you can ask the meeting.
One announcement and
Sure.
one comment. My comment is, I just want to congratulate all of you for running for the district.
Thank you very much.
A lot of courage. I repeat it, okay, well, it takes a lot of courage to get up there and run. So I encourage all of you to continue on in your endeavors, however you see fit.
I'm done. I'm done.
Thank you.
New York didn't want me, they don't deserve me. That's my
Understood. We have we're part of sister organization to the Central Police, and we're keeping it. And we're having a barbecue at the park on August the 10th. If you would like to come, we encourage you to come and bring others, especially children. It's faith, family, and freedom, and all that good stuff. It's usually widely attended, so hopefully you can make it. Or let's spread the word.
Where is it?
It's Alley Pond Park.
On what day?
August 10th.
I'm gonna stop eating on the 8th, all right?
There you go. Appreciate it. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Any other announcements before we have a motion to close the meeting? Okay, now, do I have a motion to close the meeting there? Okay, Kevin, seconded by Richard. All in favor says aye.
Aye.
Kevin, those opposed? Thank you very much for coming. Meeting closed at 9:38.
How about a big hand for Danny? How about a big hand for Danny?